This is a CBS 42 breaking news report.
We interrupt your normal programming right now for breaking news out of Montgomery, the state capital. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Dunaway.
I'm Sherry Jackson. The special counsel in an impeachment probe against Governor Robert Bentley has just released an investigatory report. Bentley's been engulfed in this scandal since recordings surfaced in 2016. This of him making suggestive remarks to a female aide before his divorce. The governor, of course, acknowledging that he made personal mistakes, but maintains he has done nothing illegal. Of course, since then, lawmakers have been requesting and some even demanding that Bentley step down. Some of those calls coming as late as today.
Yeah, this report would center around how Governor Bentley directed the law enforcement and such like that. Reporter Brittany Bivens joins us now with the breaking news. She's in our breaking news center. Brittany, you have seen the report. You have it in hand. What are you seeing?
Well, right now, Jim, we are still working our way through this report. These are just a few of the pages. This report is actually more than 100 pages long. Starts out with a table of contents, then starts to spell out exactly what the impeachment hearing process is. And just to read over just a little bit for you here, part of it details parts of the investigation. It starts off saying that there are no preconceptions, saying the special counsel and his staff brought no preconceptions to the investigation of Governor Bentley, saying that's an approach endorsed by the chairman. It goes on to say there was no time or subject matter limits. And going a little bit deeper into this, it does reiterate that the committee is not a court, saying throughout the committee's investigation, there was much public discussion and argument over the nature of the committee's role. And these discussions and arguments, observers and advocates search for analogies. Of course, this is a very, very charged report with a lot of very technical terminology. And then it goes on a little bit deeper. We're just getting some more of this report here, talking about Governor Bentley's reaction to those recordings. Of course, those were the tapes that were released that had Governor Bentley talking to his alleged mistress, the woman with whom he's accused of having an affair, Rebecca Caldwell Mason, his former aide. Here it says Governor Bentley's knowledge of the recordings was a watershed moment. Seemingly it was the recordings, the tapes as they were often called, that took away Governor Bentley's ability to deny the affair to his family and served as a pointed demonstration that the image he portrayed to the people of Alabama was untrue. It was the tapes that led to the moments of contrition by Governor Bentley. Most relevant to the committee's consideration of the proposed articles of impeachment, however, is the fact that Governor Bentley became obsessed with the existence of the tapes and a desire to prevent them from becoming public. Now, speaking to that nature of Governor Bentley, according to this report, not wanting those tapes to become public, this is a report that Governor Bentley has fought from being released. There is actually a hearing underway in Montgomery right now where Governor Bentley is attempting to prevent this report from being released. However, we were told that it would be released by 5 o'clock today, no matter what. And here it is. And reading just a little bit further, here we can see the creation of the recordings. Again, this goes into the recordings from Bentley and Rebecca Caldwell Mason. In this section of the report, it says, while the Bentley-Mason relationship was causing problems within the Bentley administration, the public was largely unaware that anything was amiss, yet there was another secret. Even those witnessing the daily dissolution of the Bentley's marriage and upheaval in the office of the governor did not know. As of March 2014, Mrs. Bentley had made tapes that captured her husband, Governor Bentley, expressing his passionate love for Mason, and then it goes on to describe some pretty sexually charged activity. Those are some different language that we did hear in those tapes. Again, those tapes between Governor Bentley and his aide at the time, Rebecca Caldwell Mason. We were told that there were going to be some pretty graphic details in this report, very graphic details regarding the relationship of Bentley and Rebecca Caldwell Mason. And it looks as if it goes through to kind of detail some of the things that we did hear in those recordings. And we did hear that they were made by the governor's wife, and that is another thing we can see detailing in this report. Another thing we can see is a little bit more about the relationship between Rebecca Caldwell Mason and the governor as far as her role within his administration. Mason was the liaison between Bentley for the Governor Inc. and for the Governor Bentley Inaugural Foundation, of course, showing that during her time in his administration, she did have a prominent role, but we are told that for some time, not even the people within his most inner circle knew that that alleged affair was happening. The report does go on to say on other occasions, Mrs. Bentley was able to read text messages sent by her husband to Mason because he had given Mrs. Bentley his state-issued iPad. not understanding, of course, that it shared the same cloud as his state-issued iPhone and granted equal access rather to all the message functions. So it was through such text messages that other Bentleys learned of this affair. So this saying that Mrs. Bentley was able to read through his messages and therefore became aware of this affair. We're going to continue to read through some of this report, and we'll come back later. Jim and Sherry.
Yes, Brittany, go ahead. Keep going through it. We're going through it out here, but also everybody in Montgomery's been watching this. And again, as those people were inside the courtroom waiting on this report to be technically released, it was released, and now it's out, and everybody's going through it.
That's right. And keep in mind, this is going on with the backdrop of David Byrne, the legal advisor to the governor, actually testifying in court as they're trying to get a temporary restraining order. And reports inside the courtroom, they don't even know this has been released yet while they were up there continuing with the court proceedings.
Now, political analyst Steve Flowers, one of those who has been waiting to see what's going on. And Steve, we know you're a man on the ground there in Montgomery. What are your sources telling you about this report?
You know, Sherry, I don't think there's anything that has not been revealed other than more detailed, more lurid, and more sordid conversations that maybe not have been heard yet, but some of the ones heard a year ago were pretty bad. So, you know, I think that this whole impeachment thing is going to take a fast track now, and the governor's trying to thwart the release has failed. And I think probably, like Art and I talked this morning, that I think Bentley's hastily called press conference this morning only added fuel to the fire.
Steve, I'm interested.
I don't think he helped himself in this morning. This thing's on a fast track now. This is a pretty voluminous report. It's about 130 pages.
Yeah,
it's
we're
going to
looking
take a lot of people time to digest all the lurid details of this affair, but it's pretty much been documented that he and Rebecca Mason had an affair. But the real critical blow happened Wednesday when the Ethics Commission ruled that he broke the ethics law with his affair.
That there was probable cause, yes.
Well, Steve, I'm wondering, today the governor said he would not resign in that hastily, as you phrased it, hastily called news conference. With it being released now, do you think he changes that direction at any point before they start impeachment proceedings?
I don't know what Bentley's thinking. He seemed resigned to the fact he was not going to resign this morning. However, a reasonable person would not drag the state through this because he is just really, the wolves at the door now, because both the prosecution within the Attorney General's office and the legislature are sending him a message that we're going to impeach you, and if he keeps going on this thing, he's going to wind up like Hunt and Sigelman, being convicted of a felony, because he's not a very popular man, and he's facing a trial if he keeps fighting.
Steve, let me ask you this. There have been these calls saying that over the past couple of days, certainly the last day and a half, that there was an effort to negotiate some sort of settlement. Of course, Bentley's attorneys came out today saying that that is not the case. What they have said is that the governor's not done anything that is an impeachable offense, despite this relationship that he had with his aide. So in looking through the document, from what the special counsel said, they said that the lack of cooperation as a potential witness is grounds for impeachment. What are the specific grounds for impeachment here if there has not been any criminal charges filed against the governor at this point?
Sure, actually, there don't have to be criminal charges for the House of Representatives and further the Senate to impeach the governor. However, I think the prevailing thought was, show us the money, show us where he's broken the law. We're not going to probably impeach him. The majority of the mainstream legislators were not going to vote to impeach the old guy just on the relationship with Miss Mason. But with this Ethics Commission ruling that indeed he did breach the law within the laws of ethics outside of the relationship or in conjunction with the relationship, that is a damaging thing right here, in that they can impeach it, the legislature can impeach him without criminal activity. But this is going to make him be under the gun from a prosecutorial point of view. And if he keeps on hanging in there, he may have tried to make a deal with the prosecution. If I were he, I would. I'd be trying to say, look, if y'all will leave me alone, I'll leave office. That'd be the best thing for the state. Save us embarrassment, because this thing has taken off like wildfire throughout the country. I mean, he's become a cartoon character. CNN's called him Love Judge.
Yeah.
You know, New York Times is coming out with a front page article tomorrow. I've done interviews with BBC, ABC, and Huffington Post, and it sounds like a soap opera.
Absolutely.
So it's just turning into a real circus.
There's been lots of opinion on it, Steve.
Steve
Lots
Flowers,
of
our political analyst, he's going to stand by. We're going to get back to more of what's in that report. It should be noted as we go back to that Alabama House Speaker Mac McCutcheon and Senator Dale Marsh earlier today asked Robert Bentley to step down from office immediately, and at this hour, the governor not doing that.
And of course, they knew the train was coming, that this document would be released. Our Brittany Bivens is in the newsroom. She has been going through it. And Brittany, as you said, it's pretty thick, and it is. What have you found in this last few minutes?
Well, Sherry, right now we are continuing just to read in sections. I have a few sections here that I want to read to you. We are getting a little bit further into the documents as it does continue to delve into this relationship between Governor Bentley and Rebecca Caldwell Mason. And it talks about different factors of their affair, how people knew they were having this alleged affair. It goes into one instance. It says in spring of 2014, Governor Bentley mistakenly sent Mrs. Bentley a text message that stated, "I love you, Rebecca," and accompanied by a red rose emoji. That is according to this report. It goes on to say that if Governor Bentley did want to hide this affair from his wife, he did not do it well. On one occasion, Governor Bentley's scheduler, Linda Adams, was interrupted from a meeting and told Mrs. Bentley was in Adams' office. This report goes on to describe an alleged event where Mrs. Bentley told Mrs. Adams she wanted to go upstairs and take a picture of what she called the love bench. It says this is a place where Bentley and Rebecca Caldwell Mason would sit together in the corner of the grounds in full view of office windows. It goes on to describe Mrs. Bentley apparently reaching out to Mrs. Adams, telling her how much this affair upset her. Of course, it goes on to say that on August 28, 2015, Mrs. Bentley filed for divorce. And it talks about in different sections of this report what seemed to be the changing relationship of the marriage between the governor and Mrs. Bentley, talking about how Mr. Bentley, the governor rather, decided that he would no longer hold his wife's hand in public around this time the alleged affair began, saying that he believed it made him look weak. And of course, some of the most strident criticism of the affair comes whenever the state resources that were allegedly being used to cover up this affair. It does talk about this in the report, saying that Governor Bentley worked to try to suppress those tapes. Those were, of course, the very graphic tapes that were released of conversations between Bentley and Rebecca Mason. It says that as Governor Bentley's affair with Rebecca Mason evolved and grew, he then learned about the existence of the tapes that would eventually become public. Now, this report I'm reading here, it says that he repeatedly exercised his influence and control of the law enforcement officers who were closest to him to prevent and contain any possibly personal and political damage. Notably, Governor Bentley directed DPU Chief Lewis to confront female staff in Governor Bentley's office, whom Governor Bentley believed were gossiping about his relationship with Mason. It says that he tried to break off the relationship with Mason. He ordered one of his deputies to travel to Tuscaloosa to attempt to convince Governor Bentley's son to turn over the recordings. It goes on and on to talk about how Governor Bentley allegedly used law enforcement to try to get these tapes from becoming public, saying that they confronted the governor and said, this is a quote from the report, Governor Bentley went from contrite to angry regarding his knowledge of the tapes and what to do about them. And it says that Governor Bentley then became, quote, adamant about defending this affair. And we are going to continue to look through some of these different portions of the report. Again, it is lengthy, about 130 pages. So we're going to continue to read this down and continue to break it down for you. Jim and Jerry.
All right, that's Brittany Bivens live in our Breaking News Center in our newsroom there as we continue to pour over this, and there's some things that continue to come out as we read through it.
I want to get back to political analyst Steve Flowers, who's on the phone with us right now. And Steve, this is something you brought up, that, you know, there is this embarrassment for the state. That's what these people on these committees are saying there in Montgomery. But as you listen to what's in this report and the lengths that have been taken, and all of this being published and released while the governor was seeking a temporary restraining order, what role do they play at all in sort of this cloud that's been cast over the state with this particular saga that's going on? Because it is, it's very detailed, the report, as far as what I've been reading here about the development of this relationship.
Yeah, when the whole 130 pages is read, as Brittany was reading to you then, there are going to be more lurid details, and it's just going to become more fodder for national news. It's going to be on every late night talk show tonight. It'll be on everything. New York Times tomorrow morning. He's just become a cartoon character nationwide, and I would have to totally agree with Speaker McCutcheon and Majority Senate Leader Jill Marsh that the best thing for the state would be for the governor to resign and try to, maybe the prosecution would work with him and say, look, we won't prosecute you on these ethics violations if you'll just leave office gracefully. But you know what? The thing about this, and what you can tell from the report, Sherry, is that Mrs. Mason had almost like a czar-like control over Bentley. That's been the real story behind the scenes. This was not just a tawdry affair where it was just sex involved. There may not even have been a lot of sex involved. This woman just took control of the man almost like he was a 17-year-old schoolboy. And that's what's been so bad for the state, is she's been telling him what to do, from what kind of tie to wear. She ended his 50-year marriage, and it's just been a real something.
Well, Steve,
and what even is furthermore makes it so interesting is her husband seems to be fine with the situation. He's got a $90,000 a year job in some vague position the governor's given. That's what the national news is picking up on too.
As people dig into the facts in this case and get around the opinion, much more to come.
Yeah, it has been a day where the governor's legal team has been trying to keep that report that Sherry's holding from being released, but it was released right before the top of the hour. It's something we've been covering for over a year now, and we will continue to update you coming up at our news at the top of the hour. We've got Lee Garner in Montgomery with the governor's legal team. We'll get a report from them coming up. Of course, Brittany pouring over the information in our newsroom.
And of course, we want to thank Steve Flowers, our political analyst, for giving us his insight to this. Stay with CBS 42 and WIAT.com right now, where you can get the very latest on this document, and on our news at 5 o'clock as we give you more analysis of this bombshell from Montgomery today.
This has been a CBS 42 Breaking News Report. Coverage you can count on.